Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Business Series. We're going to allow just a minute to let people in from the waiting room, and we're going to get started. Okay, so it looks like we have a good group and people still joining us. Again, welcome to the May Business Series presented by PNC. Thank you all for joining us on this beautiful day. I hope you've been enjoying this fabulous weather this week. It feels like spring is really here and the birds are chirping and it's a good morning for us to be having some great conversation today. So my name is Elaine Bonneau with Downtown Inc. I thank you again for joining us for the May Business Series workshop. Today, we're going to be talking about funding opportunities for small businesses. And again, thank you to our presenting sponsor, PNC, who we'll hear from in just a moment. But before we get into the topic at hand, I just wanted to go through a couple of quick reminders for our webinar today. Everyone will be on mute. So if you have a question for the presenter or comments, please just submit it in Q&A or in the chat, which is at the bottom of your screen. And what we'll do is we'll save some time at the end of the workshop so that we can answer the questions. And I'll just field them to our presenters and make sure that we get you the information that you need. If you're experiencing any issues hearing the webinar, try dialing in through one of the telephone lines, and that was provided in the registration confirmation that you received. So with that, a couple other things I wanted to share with you while I have a minute. Events that are coming up. Downtown Update. We host this twice a year. The spring update is May 25th. You can still register. It's a virtual event. And Downtown Update is really all about what's new and next in downtown development. So we have a really exciting lineup that we want to share with you. We have a special guest joining us from Crispus Attucks, talking about the new African American Museum that'll be located in York City. We will have an update on York Fest. Yes, there will be York Fest again this year, and it's going to be bigger and expanded and better than ever, I think. And so Colin Holder is going to join us to talk about that. Also the new Royal Square venue. We have the city comprehensive plan. It's just a really chocked full of good information event that I think you'll be excited to see where we've come, what we've done, even in the midst of a pandemic, and where we're going with some exciting new developments. So again, May 25th, you can register for that. It's at 8 a.m. And you can register for that on downtownyorkpa.com. I'm pretty sure there's a banner on the homepage. Summer in the city, like I said, it's warming up outside and the events are heating up too. Now that we have the opportunity to gather outdoors and you've recently heard about the occupancy numbers being lifted, we're really ramping up for summer in downtown. So if you go to, again, downtownyorkpa.com, go click on events, I believe, and summer in the city, and you can see everything that's planned so far. And if you have events that are not shown on our listing, please send them to us. We'd love to include those as well. Last note, welcoming community grants. If you are an organization that's planning an event in downtown York, we're looking for events that are welcoming, inclusive, accessible, representative of our diverse community here in York. And we have grants available to help you do that. So again, on the website, look for welcoming community grants. There's a link to applications there. The application deadline has been extended. So it's now Monday, May 24th. So you have a little bit more time to get your application in for those grant funds. And we're really excited to see what fantastic events are coming to downtown. So look forward to that in the future as well. So let's jump into our topic today. As I said, we're talking about funding opportunities for small businesses. I have two awesome presenters joining me here today, and I just want to thank them for joining us. First, we'll hear from Greg Verbosky. Greg is the Vice President Branch and Business Center Manager at PNC Bank. Greg has been with PNC for 8 years and has served in different capacities within PNC. Most currently, he is the branch manager at the West Manchester branch. He's been a great resource to our local businesses, always accessible, great information that he's going to share with you today. He is also the husband of a small business owner. So he knows this very personally, everything that small businesses deal with, whether it's funding or HR, inventory sourcing, all of that. And he has 3 little ones at home. So again, thank you to PNC for sponsoring the business series. Thank you, Greg, for being here. And I'd like to turn it over to Greg to kick us off with some information about us funding sources for small businesses. Greg, good morning.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, Elaine. Good morning, everybody. As Elaine said, small businesses and the life that you live is very personal to me. I have a wife that lives it every day. And when I was asked to be a presenter for a funding opportunity, I said, yeah, sure, absolutely. Why not? Banks are the first thing that people think of when they think of funding opportunities for small businesses. But I think I want to make sure that it's not that simple, right? But at the same time, I don't want this to come across as a commercial for PNC and all of its products either. So I'm going to try to walk this fine line here for a few minutes of making sure that we understand that the funding process, the lending process for small businesses isn't super simple, but at the same time, this doesn't come across as a PNC commercial either. So first thing I want to talk about when we think about the funding process / the lending process for small businesses is this can be an intimidating process, right? So if you're a small business owner and you've realized that, or you've decided that you want to go somewhere and you want to get a loan or a grant or something, to help the business process or the business cycles to accelerate a little bit, or just to survive or to grow or whatever stage you are in your business process. If you've decided that you want to take out a loan, it can be intimidating. And so I think the first part, and I can only speak for PNC, but the first part of this is I really, really, really encourage you to just understand that we just want to have a conversation, right? You want to have a conversation. We want to have a conversation, whether it's to gather more information about getting a loan or starting the funding process, or if you're fully ready to apply. It just takes that first conversation with your banker or your specialist, right, to start the process and to help move the process along. It doesn't have to feel as though this is some sort of doomsday sort of conversation and that you're failing because you're thinking about the lending process. Too often I have customers come in to my office and it comes across as some sort of admission of failure. And I don't ever understand that, because all we really want to do is have a conversation to see where you're at, see what you're thinking, see what you want your business to look like. I think that's the important piece of the funding / lending process is you have a vision for what you want your business to be, and you're trying to get to it. So if you're coming to the bank, or if you're going to your lending specialist or your funding specialist, it really doesn't have to be something that seems like a negative process. It's an opportunity to get bigger, better, and to grow. So with that being said, hopefully I've come across, and made the point of it really, really doesn't have to be an intimidating conversation. It really just has to be, we're the ones with the knowledge about the lending process. You're the ones with the need. And it just needs to be a needs-based conversation with whatever bank you choose, a needs-based conversation to figure out what you're looking for and where you want to go. So that's the first point I'm trying to make is for you not to be intimidated. Secondly, be prepared, right? So be prepared with what you want your goals to be for the funding and lending process. But more importantly than that, every bank's going to require you to provide some sort of information, and we're required to be able to prove that we had this conversation. And most of the time that requires you to have some sort of proof of income, proof of revenue, business tax returns, personal tax returns. So that preparation phase can really, if you're coming in and you're looking for funding, in the next, X amount of days, that preparation ahead of time is crucial, right? So again, talking to your accountant, looking, thinking about what do you need the funds for? How much funds are you looking for? Again, what's the purpose of the funds? Why are we doing this? So point number 2 I would like to make is make sure we're prepared ahead of time for what we're looking to accomplish, right? So we may ask for, every loan is different at PNC. I can only speak for PNC specifically, but every loan's different. So we may look for a personal financial statement. We may look for what we call our disaster relief form, which talks about how your business was impacted through the pandemic. So just making sure that you're prepared with what you need to expedite the process, especially if you need those funds early and often, is super important. Number 3, I think, speaking more broadly about the banking industry as a whole, at least in my experience, the bank that you spend most of your time and effort with, so the one you have the biggest and most important relationship with, is probably the bank that you should go to first. I know here at PNC, we can do special relationship rates and relationship pricing and things for those customers who prioritize us as their main bank. So if you can make us a priority, we'll make you a priority. With that being said, the more often that you can converse with your bank and the more we know about your business and can tell your story to our underwriters, the better chance of it getting approved. So again, I think that relationship that you have with your bank / your banker is going to play a crucial role in what the funding process is going to look like. So if we can, I think point number 1, where I emphasized not being intimidated to talk to your bank, and 2, having an important and substantial relationship with your bank, I think they go hand in hand. But I think it's so underrated that in today's market, I think there's a stigma around the lending process that it's very black and white, and you're either going to get approved or you're not. But I can tell you, being on the inside, establishing that relationship and having that banker that can fight for the loan and really knows the ins and outs of your business, it makes a big difference. One other thing I missed when I was talking about being prepared. I think the other thing that a lot of business owners don't understand or don't know of ahead of time is oftentimes if your business is 2 years old or less, your personal credit can be taken into account. So don't forget that as you're being prepared ahead of time, again, personal tax returns and personal income can be taken into account as well. And then the final point that I'd like to make in terms of where banks stand and PNC specifically is we have a partnership with the Small Business Association, and we're a preferred lender for PNC is a preferred lender for the Small Business Association. And I can't stress enough, when you're talking about the funding process and the lending process, how important it is to really think outside of the banking box. And I probably am going the wrong direction in terms of advertising for PNC here, but there are so many resources, and you're going to hear from an excellent one here in a little bit, but there are so many resources for funding outside of the traditional bank / credit union that I would encourage you to exhaust all your options in the lending process and the funding process to make sure that you're getting what you need as a business owner, because this could be the most important decision you make as a business owner, other than hiring the right people, is where do you get your funding from and how much do you get and in what style, right? So I could spend 5 minutes going through all of the different products and things. But again, if just go talk to your bank, right? When you have the appetite for funding and lending, just go talk to your bank. Every bank has basically the same products and basically the same opportunities for you. But make sure you exhaust all your options. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you're not intimidated. Make sure that you know what you're looking for, but also have an open mind as to what funding and what lending opportunities are out there. PNC is proud to present, the business series presented by Downtown Inc. But I think more importantly, it's important to see the entire picture when you're thinking about funding. And so that's all I have, Elaine. I'm going to pass it back to you so that we can hear from our second wonderful presenter of the day.
Yes, and thank you so much, Greg, for joining us. And, I have to tell you, having your partnership at PNC, but also your personal involvement in this has been fantastic, because you're always very candid and honest, and that's refreshing, that you're here to obviously represent PNC, but really represent the business community and what is best for business. And you made some really important points, and thank you for addressing that intimidation factor, because I have experienced that in the past, as a business owner, and I hear people saying that all the time, that they're just not sure whether, they don't want another rejection. And so, starting that conversation and understanding what you need before you actually need the product is phenomenal advice. And, educating yourself on what do you need? Do you really need a loan right now? Do you need to pursue grants? What grants fit with where your business is in its, growth? Something that we're going to talk about a little bit more, and that, has come to me with either emails frequently, phone calls, is, there's been a lot of CARES Act funding out there. A lot of that funding is being dispersed and won't always be available. But, people saying, it's almost a full-time job applying for all these grants and loans. And, then, you do all this work and maybe you don't get it. So what we're hoping to do is position you better to identify the funding sources that make the most sense for you, right? As you said, Greg,
Absolutely
getting that information. So, Greg is going to be with us for most of the presentation. So if you have a question for him, please drop it into the Q&A or in the chat. He has to go to take care of business with clients. And so won't be able to stay on for the Q&A at the end, but certainly if you have questions for him, drop that in there and he can answer you, or we'll follow up with him afterwards. So thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you, Elaine.
And now I'd like to introduce Sully Pinos, and Sully is the Director of Business Solutions and Innovation with York County Economic Alliance. And if you were on our March business series, we talked about building your tribe, right? Who are those trusted advisors and people who can help you to make good decisions for your business, grow your business, scale your business. And Sully is one of those people in my tribe. When a business owner comes to me and they need resources, she's one of the first people that I go to. And you may have seen us out on business walks together. So if you don't know her, I hope that you will get to know her, because she is just a wealth of information. As the Director of Business Solutions and Innovation for YCA, Sully is part of the team that really makes things happen all across York County. Leading her department, her team provides resources to businesses through workforce development, advocacy, women's business program, assisting small businesses and entrepreneurs across the county. And what I know she loves most about her job is really just connecting York County businesses and organizations and residents to resources and supporting workforce development efforts so that we have a stronger and more thriving community and economy. And most recently, she was recognized by the Association for Chamber of Commerce Executives, which is ACCE, as one of the 40 under 40 for her efforts throughout the pandemic to launch a virtual career fair series and provide outreach to small businesses and so much more. So on that topic of not just funding resources, but also educating yourself about which funding options are best for you. I'm so happy to have Sully joining us this morning. Good morning, and I will turn it over to you.
Hey, good morning, Elaine. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me on today's session. I am going to hope that technology is on my side as I share my screen, but I will start off and I will start off by saying I know I'm going to include this in the presentation, but throughout today's session, we are all friends and here on the Zoom meeting. So if you have any questions throughout, please add them into the chat and Q&A, and I'll happily get to them as quickly as I can. Okay, I should be working now. Okay. So hopefully we have everything on here. And you can see just highlighting today's presentation, but I'll quickly go into some of the things that we'll share. And again, please ask any questions throughout the session. So, as Elaine mentioned, between the work of the York County Economic Alliance and Downtown Inc., one of our key priorities is to get information and resources out to small businesses. And certainly in the last year, the outreach and the efforts to get emergency COVID-19 funding and resources out has been exponential. There have been at least two grant programs that are in the process of wrapping up. One of the most recent ones known as the York County Hospitality Industry Recovery Program. But for the purpose of today's session, really want to highlight programs that might be more year-round, or just programs that are coming up that have not closed. But again, can't say this enough, and can't encourage all of the viewers today to reach out to the team of Downtown Inc. and York County Economic Alliance if you have any questions on the information here or any of the upcoming grant programs. So we'll touch a little bit, we'll go into some information about some of the funding resources, some ongoing business learning opportunities. Greg shared many great tips to everyone on how to engage with the financial lenders and looking at the outlook and what's the best opportunity for you as a business owner. So education, everyone is always learning, and through experiences, you'll pick up some things. So really want to make sure that we're also providing the educational support to all of our entrepreneurs. And then lastly, York has a great and helping entrepreneurial ecosystem and environment. So we also want to make sure that you know of the resources and the partners and organizations that can help you if you're pursuing any type of funding application, or if you have an idea for your business. So want to share that information. I'll also note that this is a condensed version, if you will. If you are interested in the lengthier version, almost like the director's cut of the presentation, please reach out to the team as well, and we'll make sure to get that to you. So looking into some of the funding resources and programs that are available, there are great opportunities available from the federal government, the state, local government, or private organizations. Certainly, as Greg mentioned, PNC is a certified lender and works directly with the Small Business Administration. So the Small Business Administration right now is actually providing a couple of grant opportunities for restaurants, known as the Restaurant Revitalization Grant Fund. That opened at the start of this month and is open for restaurants, bars, wineries, several other businesses, but you can always go to the sba.gov website to find out that information. Again, there's also a link on there to connect you with other lenders. So if you already have a business bank account, depending on who your business bank account is with, you may want to reach out to them and see if they're also a certified SBA lender, or later in the presentation, we'll share some of those other resources or organizations that are connected with the Small Business Administration. Currently, there's also a loan program that is still available. There are various requirements and guidelines of information to provide, but we'll get to some of those most common requests and tips for business owners. Also wanted to highlight, I know we've had representatives from the City of York present during the business series in the past, but the City of York, the Community Foundation have partnered, and PNC have partnered to create a Kiva York revolving loan program. And it's essentially if you're familiar with GoFundMe and crowdsourcing programs, it's an opportunity for businesses to sign up for a loan. It's 0% interest, but the goal is to have you seek funding directly from your closest group of friends and networks, from your tribe, as Elaine said. So as you have a certain amount of time to request funding from those individuals in your family, in your network, in your, excuse me, in your close circles. And then the City of York was able to work with you to help source the additional funds. There are a lot of, each of these programs has a lot of requirements. So without getting into all of the specific details, we can certainly provide you with the connections to the teams that are handling these grant programs. These are not programs overseen by the York County Economic Alliance or Downtown Inc., but we can certainly help connect you. And then the other one that we wanted to mention are organizations that are known as Community Development Financial Institutions, or Cdfis. I should have also prefaced that there's going to be a lot of acronyms here. So again, ask any questions if you missed the definition for an acronym or two. And the Community Development Financial Institutions are organizations that are working to provide funding into communities, whether low to moderate income, communities of color, and really trying to focus and coordinate efforts to provide grants and loans with a low interest rate, but it's all to equip businesses to seek capital for a startup, whether it's building space or whether it's just ongoing renovations or expansions. And one of the Cdfis here in York that has worked with us in the past for last year's Restart Grant Program is Community First Fund. There are a couple of others, there are about 17 others across the state, but this is the one that has a presence, and they're specific neighborhood or communities within the county. So you'll definitely want to also reach out to them, or again, reach out to us, and we can help direct you if Community First Fund is working in the area where you're hoping to have your business or where you're hoping to expand your business. So again, these are opportunities for a mixture of grants or loans. And as Greg and Elaine have said, as a business owner, you also want to be honest with yourself and your plans as to what type of funding would be best for you and for your business. Because at the end of the day, it's your signature, and really wanting to make sure that opportunities are there to help you and hopefully can help grow your business as well. So now we're getting into some of the more private foundation specific types of loans, or grant programs. Some of these may have closed, but they are year round. So we wanted to make sure that you had the information for them. Certainly, again, we can provide the links and the information for this at the end with the presentation, but the PA 30-Day Fund is a new grant program that started last year during COVID. It is a COVID-specific type of grant program, but it is, excuse me, it's a loan program, but it is forgivable. There's no interest to it, and it's to help with immediate expenses. So this has been, there have been funds raised throughout the year, and for businesses across the state. It's a pretty quick turnaround from what we've heard. Again, these are all programs that the York County Economic Alliance nor Downtown Inc. Oversee or administer directly. The other one that I wanted to mention, because there is a deadline in the next couple of weeks, and to support our women-owned businesses, is a grant through the Amber Grant Foundation. This is a pretty interesting grant program. It offers a grant every month, essentially for $10,000. And it asks for a couple of questions, tell us your story, tell us about your business idea, how much are you requesting? And then there's a review committee of this national organization, and one women-owned business is selected every month. There's an opportunity to request a higher grant award, but really wanting to highlight this one as the deadline is in 2 weeks. So hopefully any of our women-owned businesses watching today's session will go onto the website and look at that information, or you can help share this with a women-owned business. Another loan program is through the Action Opportunity Fund. This is almost like a certified, a CDFI, if you will, but it's a national organization. It's actually 2 organizations that have merged to provide funding to Hispanic or Latino owned businesses across the nation. So these are low interest rates loans. And again, another opportunity to support our businesses owned by persons of color. Again, we have more grants and loans available that we pulled together, but if you'd like that lengthier version, please let us know and we'll make sure to get that to you. So now that we've shared a little bit about grant and loan opportunities that are coming up or that are currently available, we also, as Greg already mentioned, some of the tips that PNC provides for their businesses as they're coming to meet with them and really get a sense for what is their biggest need. Will they benefit, will your business benefit from a grant or from a loan? And do you have all of that information at the time that you're looking to apply for a program? So really can't say this enough, but with every grant program, it is different. It may have its own set of requirements and information that's requested, and just a different process of how it's sorted and organized. So I know it's easier said than done, but please never let the application process intimidate you. At the end of this presentation, we'll have a list of some of the local partners, again, just a snapshot, but again, these partners and the York County Economic Alliance and Downtown Inc. are here to help you and make that process less intimidating. So we can be there to support with and help any way we can. And if not, we'll connect you to the resource that can help. So as we mentioned, some of these grant programs, they'll really ask for some of the basic questions of, tell us about your business. You may not, these programs may be national, local, statewide, and you never know who is reading it on the back end of things. So you want to make sure that if that reviewer does not have access to social media, does not have access to the internet, and really is only going by what's on the application, you really want to help to paint a picture of what your business does, your story, why you started it, what's the impact of your business that you see for the community, or how does your business impact the community that you're in. Include in the application some of the products, like what are the services that your business provides. Again, going back to why did you start the business? How does this business impact the community? And a very follow-up question: what do you need funding for? For these grant programs, again, or grant or loan programs, they might have minimum requirements, maximum requirements, things in between, but you want to make sure if the application asks you that you are very clear and specific with how much you're requesting. And if it does ask, what will you use the funding for? Make sure to fill that section out accordingly. If let's say I was starting my business and I needed funding to buy equipment, I would include, I am requesting $10,000. And in the next question, if it's provided, I'm requesting $10,000 to purchase equipment. This is the estimated cost. So the more information you can provide, granted, there might be some limits on the information you can fit into the application, but if you do have that opportunity to provide as much information as you can, if you already have estimates for some of the work that you're looking to do, or you've done your research as to why you're in need of funding, but also for the purpose, try to include that if you can. It only helps you and benefits you at the end, because going back to the point above, you don't know who that reviewer is, and you want to make sure that reviewer can also be your advocate through the application process. So I know I'll mention this one a couple of times, but every grant program or loan program has its own set of requirements and guidelines and purposes. So you want to make sure that when you hear of a grant or a funding opportunity that's available, to review the guidelines. Most organizations, most funding opportunities will break down the information for you. Just recalling from grants in the last year, we hosted a series of webinars. We hosted these webinars in Spanish and English. We went door to door to some businesses across the county to make sure that they had the information, just the overview, but also the information of who to reach out to if additional questions are prompted or if additional help was needed. So really can't stress this enough. make sure to review the guidelines. And after you've reviewed them, review them again and make sure that if you have any questions, you're reaching out to the help desk that I for each of these grant programs or loan programs. Sometimes some of these funding programs will require a match of some sort. So you also want to include that in your planning. You might be requesting a $5,000 loan, but if they're requesting a 10% match, you're really looking at receiving $4,500. So you want to make sure that you are also including any potential costs. If it's not a match, maybe there's a cost to submit an application. So again, these are all things you want to have prepared or in an outline or have an opportunity to review with someone so that when you're ready to click submit or to drop off the application, you feel like you have done everything in your due diligence to submit a well-written, a well-prepared application. And to some of the points of what Greg shared, again, financials, and for an organization, for some funding provider to invest in your business, in your idea, there might be a question as to your financials, whether that's looking through the corporate business tax returns or looking through personal tax returns. So really, again, if you have filed make sure that you have that paperwork stored somewhere, not only safe, but somewhere where you'll remember where that is. In the last year, we've just heard anecdotally and from direct experience, grant programs or COVID-19 grant programs have really asked for most recent tax returns, making sure that businesses are in compliance with local taxes as well. So another reason why they're asking for your tax returns. And then having a breakdown of your expenses or your losses. Certainly COVID-19 has impacted all types of businesses. So without knowing all thousands of businesses in each of our communities, having that information provided by the business owner helps to paint that picture to the reviewer as to what the impact truly was. So if you hear in any funding programs that there is a request for a profit and loss statement, for your revenue statements, for information provided by QuickBooks, again, these might be terms that may sound daunting or tasking, but again, there are organizations that may have some templates that might be available to you at no cost. And again, really trying to encourage you to reach out and ask for help if you are unsure on any of the requirements that you're looking through for any of the grant or loan applications. So as you ask for help, you may be also asking yourself, how can you continue your education as a business owner? You may have picked up some things throughout the pandemic. You may have had to pivot your business and have been doing well, but now have other ideas for your business. So how can you seek that education or additional support? So, wanted to share with the Yoko Bloom grant program, the Yoko Bloom, as you'll see that, it's an opportunity to provide access to capital by grants, access to educational programs. We're going to get into some of the small business classes that will be coming up this year. So with the Bloom micro grant programs, these programs were created, this grant program was actually created in 2018 by a group of summer interns to help fund great ideas from business owners that want to impact and enhance their community. So since then, over 70 grant awards have been made. On the screen is just a list of the grant sessions or focuses that you may hear of this year. One that was just recently awarded was the Trail Towns Bloom, and that was $25,000 that went to 12 businesses across communities that are connected by the rail trail. In the coming weeks and coming months, you'll hear of Bloom grant programs. So you'll want to make sure that you're following Downtown Inc., YCEA. You're already doing that by tuning into today's session, so you'll have that information directly. With the Downtown York Bloom grant, this grant has been provided thanks to the amazing support of the community through Give Local York, where over $20,000 was raised, and all of those funds will directly go out to small businesses in the downtown area to help them with their business needs. So again, the Bloom microgrant application we'll ask a lot of the questions that we just went over in the previous slides. Tell us your story. What do you need funding for? How will this impact the community? So just some of the things to keep in mind as you're looking to upcoming grant applications. Again, if you follow the organizations, you'll hear of all of these grant programs as they're opening up. And again, with the Bloom educational and small business classes, certainly the last year, and this program was created in 2019 to help. And I know we have a previous participant on today's session. Hi, Ms. Selena. And really this was a class as a 101 level to connect business owners to themselves, to one another, but also connect them to resources in accounting, how to establish your business legally, how to look at HR, how to brand your business, having business cards to help promote your business everywhere you are. So going into some of the basics, if you will, but partnering with really great organizations like Crispus Attucks, the Small Business Development Center, Susquehanna SCORE, HACK, and many great business owners that came on as mentors as well. So last year, the class was unable to take place, but we're really happy to be able to bring this class back. So we'll be starting with, as you may have heard me say a lot of acronyms through today's session. So we'll be starting with the alphabet soup of having a business. So this will be your business 101 course, if you will, with a focus on helping the business owner make a pitch to other stakeholders, to one another, really trying to help empower businesses in sharing their story and why they started their business, why they chose York County or the community in York that they're in to start and grow their business. Then we'll follow up with a business 201 type of course. And again, we'll have some really great partnerships and presenters from the Small Business Development Center and Susquehanna SCORE and many other great local partners. We do have an interest form that we are putting out. I know we're going to add it into the chat. If you are interested in receiving updates for the class or signing up to just be on the list to receive when the class is open, you can fill this out and we'll be in touch with you. Another resource that we have on the website, and we can provide this link, is our York County Entrepreneur's Guide. This breaks down the process of starting a business, again, and talks about some of the local resources and partners, and is available on our website and is also given out to all of the participants of the Bloom Small Business classes. So I know I've shared a lot, but really just wanted to, as we wrap up and before we get into the local partners, just wanted to share a quick video of a grant recipient from last year who also was a participant in our small business classes when they started in 2019. I'm sure he's very familiar and is the owner of Skillet to Plate, but just wanting to share a quick testimonial as to how grant programs and resources like Bloom and the YCEA have been able to help them and their business grow. So hopefully this will play.
Hello, I'm Terrence Days, owner of Skillet to Plate Soul Bistro, located here in York, PA, at 30 Eberts Lane. We're a soul food restaurant that specializes in Southern cuisine, comfort food. I was inspired to open a restaurant here in York just to bring people together. This is a town of different races and cultures and diversity, so I thought it would be cool to have a spot that everyone can come, just chill out and eat some great food. Well, I learned about the grant funding from Sully and Elaine. They would come to the restaurant, talk to me when we first opened, and just letting me know about grants and funding that would be available to me, and everything worked out. I used my funding from the grant by improving some of the things, pre-existing things in my restaurant, strengthening my staff, in a restaurant you always need new equipment, money for payroll, utilities and bills and things like that. Since we entered the recovery phase of COVID-19, things are starting to pick up. During the whole process, COVID forced us to strengthen in some other areas like delivery and takeout. So now that people are starting to come back out, it's all starting to mesh together, and it's strengthening our business and caused us to step our game up.
So I know we are running low on time and want to make sure to get to some of the questions, but we can include this link, but just wanted to share a quick testimonial from Terrence from Skillet to Plate, who was able to seek grant funding, but also go through the small business classes in 2019 with Miss Selena and over 80 participants across the county. So we hope that by resuming these classes this year, that we'll be able to capture the same amount of participants, and these classes will be offered at no cost. And as you may have seen on the Bloom list of upcoming grant programs or those access to capital initiatives, there will be a grant program provided, or an opportunity for a grant provided to the participants and the Bloom small business courses. So more information to come, but that's why we want to share the interest form with you. So throughout this morning's session, I know we've shared a lot of information with you, and again, we want to share that, please don't let the information be daunting, intimidating. It can certainly be a lot, but there are a lot of really great partners and resources and organizations whose sole job and focus and mission is to help small businesses grow and succeed in our communities. So certainly you can always reach out to the team from YCEA and Downtown Inc. Under Bloom, the grants, the small business classes, the financing, and much more of the resources, can always reach out to us. We also have a Women's Business Center organization that has been meeting virtually, and we'll have we'll have an opportunity to look at some in-person events and sessions throughout the summer. I know we have Jen Horning joining us today from the Shippensburg Small Business Development Center. These are statewide small business resource centers that can help you and are often some of the partners that will refer any business that reaches out to us too, because they are there to help you. Susquehanna SCORE, they're a great group of retired business owners that will help provide mentorship and resources to businesses as well, and have been really great partners for the small business classes and all things last year and going door to door to businesses. So I mentioned Certified Development Financials, the Certified Development Financial Centers, Community First Fund, some of our financial lenders. Again, thank you to Greg and the team at PNC for today's session and for supporting small businesses in our community. Our local governments, depending on where you want to have your business or wherever you want to relocate your business, the local governments are there to help you, and we can also help make those connections, whether it's the city of York or if you're interested in starting a business in Dillsburg. We'll help make those connections to the municipalities so that you can establish your business with all of the processes and permits that they may require for you. And some of our investment partners and our local colleges, York College, Penn State York, they have some really great learning opportunities as well, and support for small businesses. So this is just a snapshot. There are many more, and we'd be happy to meet with any of the attendees from today's session and just have a quick meeting and get a one-on-one session to see how can we help you and make the next best connection and support your business here in York County. So with that, I thank you, Elaine. Thank you, everyone that's joining us for today's session. And just wanted to include my information and see if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Sully. We do have questions, but a couple things first that I just want to share. If you wouldn't mind putting your contact information in the chat, Sully, because as you said, we would be more than happy to come and meet with you, talk with you more about your business, what your needs are for funding, and if any of this resonated with you and you need assistance with pursuing it, I'm happy to help there. I do have questions that I would like to start going through so that we don't run out of time. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top. And I have heard this before when we were going through the CARES Act funding process. Does receiving a grant or loan funds impact my credit? And I don't know if I'm reading this correctly. I'll allow you to answer, but I know one of the things that we wanted to really inform people about and encourage them to speak with their accountant or an advisor is that it does count as income, right?
It can, and that certainly depends on the type of program. So again, whether that's looking through the guidelines of the program before you submit, or most funding programs, they will provide you with a grant agreement or a contract of sorts, and that will also explain, like, it will explain the terms of the funding, whether there's a payback, whether there's just any other impact, or what some of those penalties or warnings might be. So again, as we shared before in reviewing the guidelines, I should have added something. If you do receive funding, review that contract as well. Whether you have an accountant or someone that you trust, someone in that tribe of yours that may be familiar and can help break down the information. Or you could certainly reach out to your financial lender. Certainly, one of the other tips, I know Greg was talking about this at the beginning of the session, but if you have a business, or you choose, or you would like to start a business, it might be helpful for you as you start your business or grow your business to make sure that you have a business bank account. It might also help you pull all of the expenses, the transactions. If you receive funding, you can also monitor that on a separate bank account instead of your own personal savings or checking. And it might prevent you from having to look through several pages, having a shoebox of receipts and figuring out what transaction or what purchase was for your personal or what was for your business. So the question to the credit, it really depends on the type of funding opportunity. Some programs don't look at your credit. Some organizations to provide loans and financial institutions might be required to look into credit. But if the credit is something that would make you ineligible, there might be other funding opportunities to help.
Great, thank you. Next question is, does Community First Fund only support businesses in certain industries like restaurants or, and I am not, maybe you're familiar enough with this, maybe something we have to refer.
We can certainly reach out to the team because they are loans. There are certain focuses in communities across the counties where they're located. So let's say the city of York might be one of the communities that Community First Fund will support their businesses or might be able to provide some loans. But let's say you were in Dillsburg. If you want to start a business in Dillsburg, Community First Fund's services wouldn't be able to help you because it's not one of those targeted communities that they are helping with. So there are certain industries, not so much as an exclusion, but to help meet the goals of their loan program. There are certain businesses that they would like to invest in, but if you think or would like to connect with Community First Fund, we can certainly connect you with the team there, and they can provide you with more of their guidelines, their processes. And if they're not able to help you, again, referring you to another organization that might be able to provide some assistance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. And you mentioned that this is the director's cut, as you referred to it, but we're going to send all of our attendees today the presentation, or at least a link so they can see what you presented today and more information. Will contact or a link to Community First Fund be in that?
We, on the presentation, we'll have all of the mentions of the partners or the programs all redirect to those programs. So yes.
Okay, perfect. So that's a great way for them to connect. And I think you answered the next question regarding whether Community First Fund has priorities based on municipalities or location. Who should I contact for more information about the Kiva program?
That's a great question. Again, we have that in the presentation, but you can reach out to the City of York, and the Kiva Access Manager is Cherie McFadden. I will try and pull her email here if I can add it into the chat, but it is included and linked in the presentation.
Okay, great, perfect. So we'll make sure we get this presentation out to everyone this afternoon. Let's see, will there be an additional round of Trail Town Bloom grants? That was a tongue twister. What types of grants were awarded in this most recent round?
Sure. So with the Trail Towns grant program, that was just awarded last week. That went out to 12 businesses in the Trail Town communities, and that represents 5 communities that are connected by the rail trail, Railroad, Seven Valleys, New Freedom, Glen Rock, and the city of York. So in the round of grant awards that went out to these 12 businesses, there were businesses represented from each of the 5 communities. And that totaled 25,000. So the grant awards ranged in anywhere from 500 up to 2,500, I believe. But there will be more Bloom grant programs. So that was the list that we have that we shared from Bloom for downtown York businesses. Again, thanks to the support of the community during Give Local York, to a Bloom grant program for participants from the small business classes. So I don't know if there will be another Trail Town grant program this year, but certainly also just why we encourage everyone tuning in to follow YCEA and follow Downtown Inc. And also wanted to give a snapshot of the Bloom grant programs that will be available this year. So that's for countywide businesses, or it might have a specific focus like for a women-owned business, or for the participants from the Bloom small business classes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And speaking of WBCO, there was a question about mentorship opportunities. So you talked about SCORE for mentorship, but if someone wants to get enrolled in a mentorship program, I know WBCO has one. Do you know of any other ones? Or how can people find out about that? What's that timeline for WBCO?
So at WBCO, that runs with the season. So right now, they're a group of 6 participants going through that mentorship program. But our hope is that next year, when our season starts up again in January, that we'll be able to launch another mentorship application process. So, just a couple of months away. SCORE is definitely the go-to resource for opportunities to connect with year-round mentors. But I would also encourage anyone to tune into to participate in the small business classes, because part of the reason where these presenters and these experts are coming in, it might lead to some mentorship opportunities, and it might lead to other connections with other business owners that might have their business established a little bit longer, or might be in the same industry, and can share what their own best practices or how they went about something. And it might be a lesson learned and time saved for you by hearing directly from another business owner.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great point. Sometimes these mentorships evolve naturally out of networking and relationship building. And speaking of the small business classes, that's our last question. And I believe you answered it, but I want to reiterate, is there a cost for the small business classes referred to? Alphabet Soup was the one that was specific.
Sure. So for the Bloom small business classes, all of them, there was no cost. We only asked for your time and your participation and your honesty in going through the program, and maybe sharing some of your own experiences, or asking questions to all of the sessions or to the presenters as they're going through all of the topics. When this took place in person, there was dinner and childcare provided. This class will launch virtually, so we can't really deliver pizza through the screen, but we hope that by soon in the future, if we are able to have in person, that's something that we would look into again. But there is no cost, and that's why we want to encourage everyone. If you're tuning in on behalf of someone, share the link with them. We just added that back into the chat, and that just helps us gauge how many participants we will have for the first class.
That's great. A lot of fantastic information, Sully. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being in my tribe. Thank you all for joining us today. And again, we'll send you out the presentation and a follow-up email. You can also go to the website, downtownyorkpa.com, go under merchants and the business series, and you can watch the replay for this and also any of the other webinars that we've had this year. And we hope you'll join us for the next one. Save the date. June 16th is the next business series workshop on marketing your small business. So we hope to see you there. And thank you again to Greg Verbosky and to PNC for participating and their ongoing sponsorship. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great week.